Okay guys, welcome back. This is going to be the session review part 4 for 25 NL. And as you see, I am down in 25 NL, but up in 10 NL here. Only 5,000 hand sample, and this is my $80 to $8,000 challenge here. And yeah, I used to be playing 100 NL, and life hit me, and I had to grind up a bankroll again. One reason also Full Flush Poker, if you know about that. They collapsed, and they failed, and they were not paying out, and I had quite a lot of money on there. Okay, so enough bitching. We got through. This is a 4,000 hand session that I had, where I dropped 7 buy-ins, and I've been reviewing these pretty seriously. 67 hands that were marked for review here, and it's actually part 2 and part 3 are 16 hands each. So I have to. Okay, so I'm gonna go to replay all here. And I'm going to get to, I think it will be hand 33. Hand 33 until maybe hand 50. And I'm not going to use any Equilab this video. Parts 2 and 3 I have quite a lot of Equilab and hand analysis. This time I'm really just going to try to get through quickly. It's 10:30 a.m. The Pizza Hut buffet starts at 11:30 a.m. And I want to get there when it opens, because if you've ever been to a Pizza Hut or a pizza buffet, the pizza's always better at the beginning, and no one is going to be there to take all the food. So we're going to go to okay, looks like hand 33, ace jack suited. There's an opener, and I call. 15, 18, 15, their opening range is going to be pretty tight. Looks like it's 7 out of 59 samples here. That's pretty freaking tight, actually. That's really, really extreme. And their button's 36. So this player is definitely positionally aware. It's interesting because they're actually short stacking at 25 NL. So I don't know, maybe they're not as good as I might think they are, but they're an ABC player. That's what it shows. All their stats are just like very, very robotic. There's no point in me 3-betting that opening range, but there is a 56-25 over here, and I want to play a pot with them. It's always a good idea. I'm definitely not ahead of this player's range whatsoever, but if we flop nicely, I'm in position, and we can build a pot and maybe stack this guy if they have like a baby flush, draw flush, or if, you know, maybe they have like a weak or 2 pair or something like that. So I'm going to check. I'm not going to try to steal the pot against this player's range. Not on a queen 6-6 flop. That's not a good flop to try to steal. So we have the ace. It goes check, check. I'm definitely going to bet here and hope this player has an ace and just try to get some money. So I get raised, and I think at this point I can probably just fold because, well, especially if I knew that their opening range is 7%. They could easily have pocket queens, pocket aces, ace queen, ace king, and there's really just no reason for me to call, because that's another 750 or so that I can just save outright, and I don't see this player bluffing, really. Like, are they going to be shoving this with kings? Like, I don't think that's... Ace 10... Excuse me, I'm sorry. I just woke up, too. Need to drink some more of my Pellegrino. And looks like I made the wrong decision there. This is a common theme throughout these parts 2 and 3 so far. The 4,000 hand session, I was 8 tabling 25 and L, and I was pretty distracted. I had like the forums up, and I was watching like this YouTube video about American Idol. It was actually, that was a clear fold, I think, and as you see, like, I immediately was like, okay, I'm just gonna fold this, but then I shoved because I wasn't really paying attention and thinking about the stats and all that. So it's kind of a disappointment. I'm really disappointed in myself because I lost quite a lot of buy-ins. Just like, it's not that I was playing horribly. I mean, I did have a few bad beats and a few bluff spots that I think that's going to be in the next part because they're the bigger pots. But I really believe that I picked pretty good spots to bluff, and I mean, anybody that's watching these videos can judge for themselves. But I don't bluff very often, so I think that I'm just going to stop bluffing at micros because apparently players will just call with anything. I'm just going to get ace-king in here against this player. Like, it's probably a coin flip. Yeah, they had jacks. They have half a stack, and this 2620 is already 3-betting here, and their 3-bet is 12.8%. So what that means is they're going to be pretty wide, and from the small blind, they're 23.1% out of 13 samples, and 22% from the big blind. So some players will 3-bet a shit ton from the blinds and not so much from other positions, and they're the type of player that just doesn't like to have their blinds raised, and they're the defending type, and they like to unleash their fury by 3-betting light and trying to put pressure on the button. As you see, their other positions, they're not 3-betting from other positions here. So this is a really good time to 4-bet bluff with ace-king off. I really, really like my 4-bet bluff here. And if they call me, I'm in position. And they might be the type of player that defends light as well, with something like king-jack or like ace-10 suited. And I'll just crush them. So I'm just gonna skip to the next hand. That hand speaks for itself. We have a limper, and I'm going to isolate with pocket eights, 51-10. And here, I think I should be betting this just because they're going to have a lot of hands in their range. And here, because they donk out so big, that's kind of a fishy play. They could be doing this with a lot of random stuff like ace high, 7x, straight draws, 10 jack, just random stuff. And I'm just going to jam, most likely. So yeah, I jam. And if they have a 9, like, it's whatever, really. So they have 9 queen. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, because the board is so dry, and a lot of the times when players donk out like that, especially fishy players, like, they're so random. If you've been playing poker for even a little bit, you know how random they are. You'll see my other videos where they're doing stuff like that with just complete and random air balls. The reason that I didn't really want to leave their bluff range in is because pocket eights, like, if a king or ace hits or queen hits, I mean, I'm going to be kind of nervous to call their shove when there's a 9 and another overcard on the board. It's just easier to play by just shoving and having them call. And if they didn't have a 9, I would have been perfectly fine. And it's obvious to me that their range will include, their donk range will include non-9s. So we have a 59 and a 33-10. They're both half stack. So nothing here worries me. There is nothing that could happen that would prevent me from getting my money in. So because I'm the initial raiser and it's already 260, I'm just gonna pot this. I'm just gonna go to just bet 260, pot it, and they're gonna call or shove. Even if a spade hits or I guess maybe a 9 or a 7 might scare me a little bit. Like a 7 of spades or a 9 of spades, but other than that, nothing is going to prevent me from playing this hand out. And I lose that pot too. They have king, so that was bad luck. I think that I just had some really weird spots. Like, the players were at the top of their range in a lot of middling to like medium-sized pots. My bluffs were just failing every single time. It was really just one of those days where nothing is going your way. But it's also, I'm also noticing that I was missing value and making some sort of plays that I completely disagree with. Like earlier with the ace king or the ace jack versus, you know, the nit check raise. So this player is 18-13. I'm going to be very happy. Was I the 1-3? Yeah, I'm going to be very happy 3-betting this player. So their middle position is 4. Okay, I mean, out of 82 sample size. So like early position and middle position, they're a little bit tighter. This means that they could easily have pocket pairs that are over a 7. You know, 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, queens. Their 4-bet is 0% over 10 samples. So it makes me think that they might not be 4-betting things like jacks and queens. Maybe something like kings. I have the ace of hearts, so I'm not going to really think that they have too many nut or flush draws here. So I just want to get paid off by over pairs that might think that I'm barreling with ace king, and they call, and I'm going to bet again, and they call, and I'm going to bet again because the king of hearts is a perfect card here, actually. Well, now the problem is that if they did think I had ace king, then they're going to fold their jacks and queens and all that stuff. So if the king of hearts hits, I had the ace of hearts. They would have had to have called with like jack queen of hearts or jack 10 of hearts, and I'm really not. Their fold to 3-bet in position is 63%. So it makes me think that they're a little bit tighter, a little bit more nitty, and they're not going to have a lot of those suited connectors in their range to begin with. They fold. I mean, I expect the fold when the king hits. If they had queens or jacks or something like that, then they see that king hit. And then the flush comes, and the board just runs out really bad for my aces. Like if a 5, another 5 hit, or even a 6 or an 8, I would have shoved. Anyway. But again, it's not going our way. I could have stacked them if they had queens or jacks, perhaps. Maybe. So we got some openers here, and 33-10 to my left. There's a squeezer, but I don't really mind being squeezed with 9-7 suited in position if these players call. And this player is like a chronic squeezer, 13%. I remember this player. He's a tornado type of player. He's very, very random, and he's extremely aggressive pre-flop, but not very aggressive post-flop. As you see, his bet turn is 20%, bet flop is 68%, which isn't too high. His 3-bet and squeeze percentages are ridiculous. So if you can handle his fire pre-flop, and then post-flop, he usually just shuts down, and you can take advantage of him and just kind of play in position with, like, just bet like half pot or whatever, and he'll sometimes just check fold his air balls. So middle pair. Okay. I just had a sneeze kick in, and good thing I paused that video, or else that would have been pretty loud. So I have middle pair, and I have a backdoor flush draw, and I'm in position. So I'm definitely not going to fold. I'm going to see one more card and just kind of see what happens. So that's a really nice card. This player bets. This player calls. And at this point, if this player has a king, he didn't 3-bet, so it's going to be a weaker king, something like king jack, king 10 perhaps. He could be on a flush draw as well. I don't have any spades, so it's not like it's that big of a deal, but it's going to be more likely that he has a flush draw, just because I don't hold any spades. And if he has a flush draw, he might be willing to call a raise here. And if he has a king, he also might be willing to call a raise. And, I mean, it's going to be tricky for him to put me on a 7. So I'm just going to raise this to, like, $9, I guess. So, I mean, he had a flush draw, again. So, I don't like how I just called that on the turn, because his 7x combinations are going to be a lot less than his flush combos and king x combos here. And I'm really surprised that he didn't shove on me here. Like, the only thing that he could really think I have is pocket 3s or quads. So I'd probably make a note about this player and say that they're like super conservative on their shoving ranges. Like, they might believe that it's like the worst case scenario when they have a nutty hand, like a nut flush. I guess I could have checked behind here, but I really think I should have raised the turn. Maybe check behind on the river. And because whenever the spade gets there, I don't think that they're going to be calling with a weak king any longer. Like king 10 or king 9 suited king jack. I don't believe they're going to be calling a big bet with a weak king. They might, but it's also possible that they have the spade combos, the flush combos, which is exactly why I should have raised the turn. And again, I'm just really disappointed that I really wasn't playing as well as I thought I did. I kept thinking like, oh, I'm just having such bad luck, which I am, but at the same time, I'm not playing as perfectly as I should be. My 10-0 videos, the later parts of those, like some of those videos, I'll go through 20 hands and I'll find like 2 or 3 spots where I might have like messed up. But in these videos, because I'm 8-tabling and it was a 4,000 hand session, I mean, it's just my fault. It's my fault completely for getting too arrogant and thinking that I could just kind of play through the hands and just look at the forums and watch a YouTube video as I'm 8-tabling. I mean, that was really just kind of stupid of me. So pocket 4s. I think I said we're gonna go up to hand 50. Basically, like whatever this recording shows an hour, and I'm just gonna try to get some work done and go quickly. So this player bets. I have a set, and I should just raise this and try to get the money in now because the board is really drawly, and a lot of turn cards can shut the action down or just kind of scare them away. And they're already showing interest. They don't have much money left, and they're fishy, as you see, 47-14. So if I don't raise this, I don't raise it. That's ridiculous. So as you see, I'm just playing really bad. The money goes in anyway, but that's not the point. The point is that I should have raised that on the flop versus those players, and on that that flop texture. So I'm opening ace jack off. I'm being 3-bet by Darth Rays, as you remember. He's been in other videos as well. I'm not gonna 4-bet. I guess I could 4-bet, but I think ace jack it's too strong to 4-bet bluff. He bets. I'm gonna call this because his C bet's 68, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I remember this hand. I think because I wasn't really sure how he would react to boards that run out like this. If he's gonna try to bluff, if he's going to try to push me off an ace for a chop, he might have an ace and he might think I have an ace and he might try to push me off for a chop. He might be bluffing. He might be bluffing the jack. Like, if I have pocket 8s or pocket 9s, my range isn't showing too much strength. And he could try to be using this jack as a bluff card, even though if he thinks I have an ace or something like that. So I called. I don't think it's the worst call in the world. And I wanted to get a sense of what he would do, like, as a bluff, or if he has a bluff range on rivers and things like that. Because post flop, he really wasn't acting up too much, but I think this would be a really good board for him to just kind of pot it. And I'm like, well, if he has the queen, then he has the queen. And I don't really see him doing this with anything other than a queen or a bluff. I don't think that he's that solid of a player to bomb the river with a jack for value. That was my justification, I believe. And if he had the ace, then I would have won the hand because I had the jack as well. That was my justification. He has a queen, as you see, which sucks. So that's at the top of his range. And I don't believe I made a terrible call there versus this type of a player. And then I'll just adjust them in the future if I feel like maybe they're just not bluffy post-flop. So we have king 8, and I call because they're 59. And flop 2 pair. They bet, and I raise to 250. Everything's fine so far, but I feel like I could have raised a little bit bigger because all they have to do now is call $2 into $4. And if they have a flush draw, if they have 8x, if they have a king x, if they have queens, if they have aces, if they have pocket queens, pocket jacks, they're going to call. They're going to call a bigger raise here. And I should have raised to like $4 because then it would have been 550, and then they would have to have called 350 into 550, or I could have even raised to like 450, 475, 450. I think would have been a better raise size because they're only half potting it, and if they don't have a strong hand, they're probably not going to be like triple barrel bluffing because they don't have like the wildest stats here. So they call. I should be bombing this like $5. I think $5 would have been a better bet. Maybe like $5.50. Because again, flush draws are going to call. King X is going to call. Even 8X might call. Just because that's the type of player they are. They were 59. So I'm not getting as much value as I should be. The other thing is that if I raise to 450 and they call me, that's $9, $10. And then I could have bet like $8 on the turn. Then they call us 16. That's 24 on the river. And I would have had like $10 left, and I could have just shoved and gotten called. So I didn't set this pot up very nicely for a river shove. As you see, it's now 20 into 15 when it could have been like 12 into 20 if I played that better. So they call, I win. And I could have actually set that up for a shove, and I could have gotten another $11 of value out of that hand. So again, that was me just not playing it as well as I should be. I'm opening sevens. Gosh, these things keep changing. So because they're a 42-21, I could have bet this bigger because 8x, 7x, all the straight draws, all the flush draws, under pairs like 6s, 5s, and overcards could just float me in position. And they don't have much money left, and I'd rather just try to get the money in like by the turn. So I have quads, and I bet again. There's no reason to check here. They're already showing interest. And they call, and I shove, and they call, and I win, and they had 8 ace. So as you see, like, I guess the money, I got the money in anyway. So I guess I can't be too nitpicky about my flop c-bet sizing. Let's see, so, well, yeah, I can be actually, because it's 11 into 11. I could have set it up to more like maybe a 14 into 9, and that would have been a better price for them to call. And so I really need to start like just not 8-tabling and instead 6-tabling and shut everything down. Just shut the forums down, shut the YouTube down. Again, I'm disappointed because I know that I'm a very solid player, and all the decisions that I'm making in these videos are decisions that I immediately am like, this is not good. So I'm going to isolate with ace queen. They donk a little bit here, and I think that I should just raise this and try to get the money in, because they could have a weaker ace. They could have a queen of diamonds or a jack of diamonds that they really, really want to hit their flush with. And this isn't really showing very much strength here. So I'm going to raise, and I'm just going to shove here, or bet like $6 and hope they shove. Yeah, so I shove, they call, and they had a jack 8. So they're going for like a jack high flush draw with a Broadway on the turn. And that's why raising that flop is pretty mandatory versus a player like this and a bet size like that. Like, you can't be afraid that they flop the flush. There's nothing else that that's gonna have you beat, because they didn't raise pre-flop, so they can't have sets. They're not gonna have ace king. They're probably not gonna have ace 7. So king 7 and flopped flush are the only hands that you need to be scared of. And then the turn, like, they bet a little bit, and you just gotta have to shove before another scare card comes out and it shuts the action down. Pocket 9s, I'm opening with pocket 9s, and I flop a set, and we have a 28-7 and a 22-16. I wasn't 3-bet, so the only thing that I can really hope for is that they have an ace, that they might have pocket 8s, or they might have 2 pair or a flush draw. So I'm gonna bomb this, probably pot it. I mean, $2 is fine, I guess, versus these players. So that's a really, really sucky turn card, but I can't just assume that they have flushes. And they could have straight draws, they could have ace X's, and they could both have an ace, they could have the straight draws as I mentioned. They could have 9x, 8x that they want to see another card with, like maybe 8 something of clubs for a backdoor flush. So I'm gonna bet this like $4, I guess, and then this guy shoves, and there's nothing that I can really do except for call, because he could have 2 pair by now. He could have 9 king. He could have like a ace queen maybe with a queen of spades. I mean, there's a few combinations that he could have that he could be shoving with, and there's already an ace and a king of spades on the flop, and they're 28-7. So I have the 9 of spades, so 8-9 of spades is taken out. All the ace X and king X of spades are taken out, so that leaves like, what, 10 jack, jack, queen of spades. the only two hands that I could really put this guy on. But he has the flush, and he had actually 4-3 of spades. So again, I'm just kind of running into some bad luck along with my bad play, and that's a total recipe for bankroll disaster. Is when you're running bad and you're playing bad as well, and you're just leaking, you're bleeding buy-ins. So I'm just gonna basically bet this and just call off a shove, probably, or maybe not. So it looks like I check. They bet, I shove, they call, I win. They have Jack King. I guess you could make an argument that I should check and just hope an ace or king hits, and they have an ace or king as well. But it's going to be difficult for them to have hit this flop. And a player like this, a 68-16, could easily like check shove an ace high or diamonds or something like that. It's probably unlikely that they have a 3x or 2x. Even though they're 68, like there's a lot of 2x and 3x, like 3-4, 3-6, 3-7, 3-8, 3-9, that are not going to be check calling like a 3-bet like that. Or actually, they raised pre-flop, didn't they? Maybe not. No, they're calling this guy as raise. So yeah, even though they're 68-16, the 3x and 2x are going to be limited somewhat. So it's either going to be a 9x, which I have pretty good equity against, diamonds, or just like somebody who wants to gamble a little bit with some overcards. I've seen these players even just check shove like king, jack, and things like that, just because they have overcards and there's already money in the pot and they don't really want to fold. But I guess checking is fine too. I mean, as it turns out, I hit the king, I win the pot, and I stack them. I mean, who knows? They might have gotten their money in with king jack on the flop as well. But I think that's one of those situations where either or is perfectly fine versus that type of player. So this 56-25 calls from the blinds, and I'm not being 3-bet, so that's really great because I have ace-2. I flop top pair, and I'm going to bomb this. I could have just potted it, actually. It looks like I'm betting a little bit smaller than I like to in these sessions as well. So I should be betting this turn like $4 or whatever. So as you see, again, the river is 11, they have 1088, and that's not the best price to shove. If they had Jack X, I could have actually bet. So another 30 cents, 60 cents. So this would have been 510, and I could have bet like 450. So that would have been 9, and then 1350. So it would have been 1350 on the river, and they would have had like 890 left or something close to that. And that would have been a really good shove. They could have called me with a Jack X or an ace, because I have 2 pair now. So they shove first. And now this is one of those spots that it's just so gross, because I'm just thinking, like, do they really have the flush? And their stats are pretty wild here, and I'm really thinking that they have bluffs in their range, or maybe they're overvaluing ace 10, 5-7. They could be bluffing, like they could definitely be bluffing with something like 6-8 of diamonds, perhaps. Even turning like a pocket or 5x into a bluff. So I'm gonna say that they have a bluff range as well, along with their flush combos. But the other important thing to remember is that I could have set this river up better so that it would have been obviously easier for me to just snap call off their shove if they had like 8 left into 13 or 14. Then this decision wouldn't have been such a gross decision. I don't think that I should be folding this because I don't really know how they play, and they are a 56-25. It's not like they're a 56-2 with like a 2% 3-bet. They have pretty wild stats here. And it really makes me think that they're a little bluffy. And because I actually have 2 pair now, if I didn't have the 2 on the river, I probably would have folded this, just because I also know that they could be shoving weaker aces, just spazzing out with like an ace 10 or ace 9. Or maybe like an ace king that didn't 3-bet pre-flop if they wanted to get a little tricky sometimes and they want to play with like ace queen or ace king. So I call, and again they have a flush. So I'm running into so many flushes during this session, it is ridiculous. I'm being 3-bet by a pretty nitty player here. So I'm probably not going to want to 4-bet them. I guess if I had ace king suited, I might want to 4-bet. But here, it's like, I just want to kind of hit an ace or a king. And play some poker. Maybe this player will call and I can get some money from them as well. So they bet. I'm going to call this. And they check, and I check. I like my check on the turn because I feel like if they have ace queen or ace 10, they might actually decide to bet again with ace queen. But if they have something like kings or queens, then I'm going to scare them if I bet now. But if I check and then the river comes like another diamond or something like that, then I could bet and make it look a little bluffy, and they might call me. I could bet like $6 or $7, and they might call me if they think I might be betting a jack or if I'm bluffing. So they check again, and by this time I think that they either have like a weaker ace or an underpair, and I should be betting. Well, they probably don't have an ace because their 3-bet's pretty small. Their range is pretty tight because of their stats. So it's either that they have a really strong ace, like ace king or ace queen, which is kind of a weird way to play because I would think that they want to get their money in, or kings or queens. So here I want to bet like maybe $7, maybe even like $6 or $5 just to get a crying call. And they call. And I win the pot, and it maybe like $7, $6 I think is a fine size because I think they had kings or queens. I think that's pretty obvious. So they call me because I checked behind on the turn. I like how I played that. But I think that the 7 is actually, this is the absolute highest that I would have gone. And I think that maybe like $6 would be like a more perfect sizing just to get a call from kings or queens. I don't know, maybe somebody else would disagree and think that 725 is like a perfect size, but I really wouldn't go any higher than that at all. Like definitely not higher than that. Queen king, I'm gonna be isolating with queen king on this limper here, and he calls, and I pick up a gut shot with overs, so I'm going to be betting, and I'm going to be betting this as well because any 9x, like 9 ace or 8 ace, 9 king, this is a board where I might want to actually just barrel again. Oh, actually I have a straight now, I'm sorry. So I have the nuts. And there's no point for me to bet too big. If they had a set, they probably would have raised the flop. Maybe. They could have a 7. they could have 2 pair by now. And so I'm just gonna bet again, and again, this king actually, if I remember this hand, oh, they call me, so I win the pot. They don't have the queen, so yeah, I'm not really sure what they're doing. I mean, I don't think that you can really call this ever if you don't have a queen. But maybe, I don't know, maybe people think that I'm a little bluffy, like bluffier than I would think I am. But there's not a lot of samples for him to even judge. So I win that pot. Opening Jack King suited, being 3-bet by this psycho whale over here. I flop basically the nuts, and he's potting it. He pots it again. I jam, and he folds. And there's really nothing to say here. I guess I could have actually just called this and then have him shove the river, but yeah, I think I could have actually just called this, and then he might, there's 2 things that could happen. He might bluff shove the rest of his stack and just spaz out and just bluff shove the $8 and just hope that I'm folding whatever. Or it could give him a chance to pick up like a jack if he has Jack 10 or Jack Queen, because he might not call this with Jack 10 if I shove now, but it would allow him a chance to pick up another card like a Jack or a Queen. And if he hits his flush, like, that sucks for me, but I'm not really worried about that. And if he has a king, he's going to call me and shove anyway on the river. So I think that the best way to get the rest of his stack in is to have just called that and hope that he improves. So I don't believe that I should have shoved the turn there. I think that was a miscalculation on my part. Yeah, I don't think that I should have shoved the turn. So I'm going to 3-bet this, and a 73-3 and a 26-19, so I can pick a bigger 3-bet sizing. This guy just shoves, I call, and I win. They have jacks, so that was a nice hand. 42 minutes in, and we're getting some good work done here. So I'm isolating this player. I flop top pair, and he shoves. He just open shoves $19 into $3 on a king 7-6 board. He raised pre-flop, and oh no, he limped pre-flop, and then I isolated. And so his range is not going to be very strong, because imagine that if he opens for what his PFR, his PFR is 10. This means that he doesn't have like king ace, most likely. He could have king 7, king 6, 7-6, but he could also have a lot of diamond draws and also straight draws, and actually weaker kings too that might be afraid of the diamonds. I think another read that I could have is that he has Trump in his name, and for all you Trump haters, like, you might just want to call him just because he has Trump in the name, just to like take his money, you know. But he cold shoves, and this is a spot where I'm just gonna have to basically snap this off and just call it. Like, what can I do? There's nothing that I can do here other than call that off. And as you see, he had 6-10. So anybody who sees this hand, remember that these players will do this with mid pairs and bottom pairs. Their range is going to be very wide sometimes. And you just kind of have to call that. And then sometimes they'll have 2 pair or sets. I mean, I guess they have to balance their range sometimes too on bluffs. You know, the fish balancing their flop cold shove ranges with weaker ranges on that. So we have a 62-10 and a 23-20 and king 8-3 flops. Not very drawly. And I'm going to want to bet pretty big and hopefully just get called by any kind of a king X that this player might have. This player probably doesn't have a king because he didn't 3-bet me. He might want to squeeze his weaker kings and also 3-bet stronger kings for value. So he might even be the type of player that squeezes 8s here. So I'm really only worried about pocket 3s from this player. I would say pocket 3s, maybe something random like king 8 suited, but again, I think that he might have turned that into a bluff as well. So he calls. Again, I'm not too worried about him. The queen I don't really like very much just because king queen. He probably would have 3-bet or squeezed king queen as well. So 8 queen suited, king 8 suited, pocket 3s. He folds. That's fine. So it's now, this is a really good shove here. So 13 into 18, I can shove. And they win the money, and they have 10 queen. So again, bad luck for me. I'm definitely having bad luck in these session review videos. This is very random. So he floats me with 10 queen on the flop. And he's a 62-10, so like, what do you expect? They gotta win sometimes or else they're not gonna want to play poker, most likely. 17-17 opens. We don't really have any huge fish behind me, but I'm going to 3-bet my aces and pretty much just bet this flop. Oh, ouch. So he shoves for $22. I have aces, and I don't really see any reason to fold because, as you saw in the last hand, the guy had bottom pair. This time, he's a 17-17, so he's not like the fishiest player. But I'm thinking, like, if he has a set, then he probably isn't going to want to just shove this. It kind of sucks, but I feel like I am obligated to call it off. So as you see, he shoves the flop with a straight draw. 10 Jack Queen King with overs. So even these 17-17 stat players can be super, super fishy and random. King. I'm 3-betting the 73-58. So I'm going to pick a bigger 3-bet sizing because they're probably never going to fold. And they had ace king suited, and I win that pot. That's nice. So 10 kings suited. I'm gonna open. I guess you could say that might be a little bit loose, but there's also 78-50 over here. I don't know, maybe I was feeling a little frisky and I just I felt like playing a hand. So I'm being 3-bet by, oh, okay, an 18-13, 8.3%. The reason I'm calling this, one is that I feel like their range might be a little bit tight. So if I flop nicely, then I might have a chance to take their entire stack because we're deep stacked. 10 king suited is not a really, really bad hand, and I'm in position. So I'm going to call this 3-bet. I flop trips, which is great. And so on this flop, I feel like I really don't need to bet. This flop is extremely dry. They 3-bet me and then they check. They probably don't have queens, kings, or aces. Ace king might actually have c-bet this because they have overs plus the gut shot. So they might have something like pocket 9s or pocket 8s. Maybe like jack queen, and they want to pot control a little bit. And I'm happy pot controlling this. And they bet, and I'm gonna call. And then they bet pretty big on the river. And I think that at this point, they're polarizing themselves to either a bluff or a nutty hand. Like somehow they might have a straight by now, like 9 queen. They might have even flopped a boat with pocket jacks. They might have pocket 8s. They might have ace 10, jack 10. So I don't really feel like I should be shoving this. And I call, and they have aces. Yeah, so I'm wondering. No, I don't believe that I should be shoving that river. I really don't, because that bet sizing is huge. 15 into 1950. I guess he got more confidence on the river, and he's probably hoping that I have like a jack X by now, and then I'm going to be just a donkey and call this big ass bet. But when he 3-bets me, his 3-bet is 8.3%. If he had a tighter 3-bet, like something like 4.1 or 3.5, then I would have probably bet the flop here after he checks, because I can definitely put him on something like a stronger jack, queens, kings, aces more easily than I can here, especially after he checks. So here he's betting 580. I don't believe that I need to be raising this, because he might be planning on bluffing a little bit on the turn. And I don't believe I should be shoving this, just because, like, if he has aces, I'm not even sure he would call this, because that's another $25. That's a big ass shove. And if he's bluffing, there's no reason to shove over top of him either. So there's other combinations that he could have that have me beat. The combos of 8s, jack 10, you know, like jacks, maybe 10-8, 10-8 suited. He could have been 3-betting me with that. So I think I played that hand fine. So this is nice. This guy is just kind of open shoving his entire stack. I'm gonna call. He had aces, so that sucks for him, I guess. And I guess I got lucky there. What is that? $100 stack? What the hell? Oh, that's because I had $75. So he's open shoving pocket aces here. I feel like these type of players, especially, like, this is a wild stat right here. They could be doing this with a wide range. If it was more like a 42 with like a 2% 3-bet and like a 1.2 aggression factor, and they're just open shoving to my small under the gun raise, I might be inclined to just side fold the queens, because it's very likely that I could have kings or aces, but this player, his stats are really, really psycho, and there's no reason for me to fold queens there. This guy is like kind of min 3-betting a little bit, and so it's a 41-24 and a 49-13, and I would want to I would probably want to 3-bet this and just kind of act like this is a normal raise, and then 3-bet to something like $4 and or $4.50. Hope to either just kind of take the money pre-flop, have a king or ace hit, and then stack these players. So now, because I completely missed, this player was the initial raiser, so he probably doesn't have any 5x or 3x. A 10x is definitely in his range, but Okay. Well. This might be a hand that I could say that I definitely didn't play this very well. My plan originally was to 3-bet pretty big and then completely shut down if an ace or king doesn't hit. Because this player is a calling station and they could easily be calling me with like 9s, 8s, weak 10x's if I bet and then shove. Even someone like ace 5 might be wanting to call me down with these stats. There's also clubs, things like that. Well, because I don't hit my ace or king, my equity in the pot is definitely lower. Because they could have pocket pairs as well, like jacks, 10x. So this, I want to say that this was me just being a complete donkey and playing this like an idiot. So now, because he shoves, I have to call 14 into 35. So I'm kind of afraid to open up Equilab because it might freeze up the recording software. But let's try it. Okay, so that seems to have worked. Okay, so I'm gonna put this guy on a pretty wide range. We're gonna go for like a lot of suited connectors here. So his opening is 24, and I think that he's, yeah, okay, so I'm gonna give him like a lot of suited connectors. And I'm gonna give him 9s, 8s, jacks, queens, and then a lot of 10x. So jack off, jack 9 off, pocket 10s, pocket 5s, pocket 3s. The reason that I'm giving him 8-8 and 9-9 is because I want to put some spaz range in there too, because he could easily be spazzing out with 9s or 8s, and then I'd have to hit my backdoor flush or backdoor straight or overcards. So after I put myself into this kind of a 6 spot by c-betting the flop, and now I have to make the decision of whether to call it off or not. And my first gut feeling is that calling it off is probably going to be fine. I'm going to also put in I'm going to put an ace king off as a spaz as well. And I'm going to put in another like an ace high spaz. And then also ace 5 suited. And 4-6 suited. I'll give him 4-6 suited as well. I'm going to take out a couple of these because I'm not sure that he's going to be opening these pre-flop. Actually, if he has a wheel draw as well, he might spaz with ace 4 suited. And okay, so we're gonna okay that. I'm gonna give myself king ace and then ace clubs, and then we're gonna assign the flop cards here as well and evaluate. Okay, so with this range that I gave him, some airball range, some bluff range, and then all the clubs, my equity is actually 52%. That doesn't seem right. Queen, oh, okay, I know why. I completely messed that up. what I actually have to do here is assign all of these as clubs. Well, I don't need to assign those as clubs because that's a wheel draw anyway. So the other ones are clubs. We're going to OK that and evaluate again. And now I'm at 45 to 54. And these are all clubs. So he has a flush draw on all of these. If I take out some of the spaz range here, okay. If I take out his spaz range, it's 43 to 56. I mean, mainly it's because I have like a 24% chance to hit my king or ace. I also have the backdoor flush and the backdoor straight draws, which adds like another 4%, I think, to my equity by the river. So that's like 6 outs of king, 3 kings, 3 aces is 6 outs times 4 is 24% plus 4 is 4%. And that's like 28 to 30% equity that I have outright for things like jacks, 10x. Even if he has like pocket 9s, 5x, I still have pretty good equity there. And even if I know that he has 10 jack, it seems like it's the right call, because 14 into 35, I have pretty amazing price there to call this off. We can even go a little bit more strict here as well. Take out the ace 4 suited, take out the ace 5 suited, and then just leave these as nut flush draws, and then have some king high, queen high flush draws as well that he's shoving with. 10s, jacks, queens. We could take out, give him the suit selection of ace king suited and give him clubs. I'm going to take out the ace king off spaz. And this is well, jack 9 off. Okay, we'll take that out too. And then we're going to OK that. Well, ace 4 suited and ace, so he can have ace 3 suited where he has a pair of 3s and also the flush draw. And the ace 4 suited, he could also have the flush draw as well. So if I take out his, if I completely take out his spaz range, it's 28.75%. So the other thing that we have to do now is do a pot equity calculation. And it's something like my call price divided by call plus pot price, I believe it is. So that's $14 to call. The pot's 35, so that's 14 divided by, let's say, 50. And that's a 28%. So it's 28% to call this off. And I have 28% equity. And that is excluding any of his spaz or bluff range. And I think that that's a clear call, because it's basically a break-even call, and that's with a very conservative and tight range on his part. If I give him something like pocket 9s, let's see what that does. So anything else that I give him, I'm going to improve. Queen 10, I guess he could have. King 10, ace 10, maybe. Okay, well, it seems like that's dropping to 27%. This is one of those things where it's going to be really difficult to calculate this on the fly. But 26.92%, and I guess if I could include some more flushes. if I include a few more flushes, then I'm back at like 29%. So this is pretty much a break-even call. And I'm kind of putting myself into this position just because I see bet the flop when I really didn't plan to do that in the beginning. So this video has been going on for 1 hour and 5 minutes, and we got a lot of hands in. This is a really great session review. Sometimes I'm really just going to go very quickly and not really analyze in detail, but this is one of those hands where I think it's kind of necessary to do that. Oh, another reason is that because I have the ace of clubs, his nut flush draws are going to be diminished quite a lot, which is one of those reasons why my equity is a little bit higher than I thought it would be. I think that's one of the reasons, because even though I marked all the ace X suited as clubs, I don't think Equilab's going to calculate that in because I have the ace of clubs myself. Or maybe that makes it less for me because I'm actually ahead of his ace X with the nut flush draw, only by a little bit. But that's a really interesting hand, and I believe I played that poorly. I don't think I should have c-bet that. I think I should have just check folded, maybe check called the flop and then see what happens on the turn. So thank you guys so much if you watch these videos, and hoping to be in 50-0 pretty soon. If I start playing the way that I argue I should be playing in these videos, then I'll get there pretty quickly. And peace out.